Hello, this is William Tincup and Ryan Leary, and you're listening and watching the Use Case podcast with Jason Putnam on from Plum. That's a lot of things to put together, but I'm going to let the audience kind of digest that. Jason, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks, friends. Appreciate you having me.
You are great. You are great. All right, let's start with some basic stuff. For those that might not be familiar with Plum, let's talk a little bit. Give us the breakdown. What does Plum do?
So what we have done is a little different than what we're doing moving forward because we've added some stuff. But historically, for those who are familiar or not familiar with Plum, we built Plum primarily with the human in mind first. So over the last 10 years, we use kind of human-centric data. So think of it as soft skills. We use it via the psychometric assessment to really make sure we can bring people together who are either looking for jobs, who are current employees at a particular company, or just people who want to know more about themselves. So last 2 years have been great for us, really serving both sides. And that has exploded into popularity on both sides. William, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but right now we have 50,000 people a month creating Plum profiles. And part of the profile is the assessment, but it goes beyond that. And what's interesting about the 50,000 is a portion of them are applying for jobs, a portion of them are employees, but about 20% of that number every month is just organic. So they're just coming to Plum to learn more about themselves and get career advice and career coaching. So we've grown a lot in the adding new people to Plum, but we've also grown a lot in adding new customers. In the last 2 years, I think we grew 230%, which I appreciate in the market that we're in. But now what we've done is we saw such a demand because we did the hard stuff first. Taking psychometric data and doing it at scale and not requiring consultants and making it a good experience on both sides where people find value is very hard. So we did the hard part first. And then we went back and said, about 2 years ago, how far can we take this while maintaining or increasing value on both sides? So as today, we rolled out that we've really bifurcated Plum into two distinct platforms. Plum Flourish is one side and Plum Thrive is the other. So Flourish is for the human, for the people, irrespective of where you are in that stack as an applicant, organic, or employee. Plum Thrive is for the company. So on the Flourish side, it's really this user-centric solution where we'll invite individuals to map their best career fit. So unlocking the right opportunities, build career paths, using both data from a psychometric side, but also skills data, which we'll talk more about. And then on the Plum Thrive side, that's our enterprise solution. We've really gone deeper with that, and probably where we'll spend the most time today based on YouTube, but it's really solving skills-based hiring. And we're the first to combine hard skills and soft skills into one proprietary technology and methodology. And what we want to do is we can match hard skills and those innate soft skills together to map the total human, to give the employer really a 360 view on the human. We want to go as deep as we can on a particular human with the amount of data that we have, whether you're using that to screen people in, onboard them, succession planning, leadership potential, anything you want. So that's the big change. The other thing we did, because that wasn't good enough, is we overlaid a third product release, which is our culture gap analysis. That is on the TM side. We're not just TA, we're TM. Most of our clients use us for TM as well. But now with that same data and the same methodology, we're going out in a way that is both, because we're a science company, both predictive from a science perspective, great user experience, but also fast and easy. So companies can really understand the gaps in their culture and double down on what's really important for them. It's a lot.
It's a lot to consume.
Yes.
Well, it is and it isn't. If you've been following this story for a long time, Caitlin, just a really thoughtful person when it comes to this stuff. Your background, like this isn't. It is because it's a lot for people that just haven't followed the story, but I think it makes a lot of sense, especially when people say skills-based hiring. If they only apply it to hiring and they don't apply it to everything else, it all falls apart.
Right.
And that's one of the things I love that you've tackled that part. I like the fact that you tackled talent management, and you've got a distinct experience for the people that are candidates and employees, etc. You got an experience, an explicit kind of experience for the folks that are managers.
And people love it on both sides. We've all been assessed our whole life. Our completion rate's
right.
the highest in the industry, and the satisfaction rate, because with the Flourish side, we really want people to look to Plum, and it's only going to get more and more iterative over time, We want humans to look at Plum as this career coaching platform, right? If you're just, hey, I'm going into a meeting with my boss, what it's going to be. I'm going to get an interview. I'm looking for a job. Like, we just want them to be in a position where Plum can provide them the most value because we know the most about them.
So how do you see the market responding to what you've created? Because a lot of people, soft skills, they'll pick a lane, soft skills or hard skills, and they'll kind of build a narrative around why that's the most important, etc. We won't even get to culture fit right here. But how do you think the people that you compete with, how do you think they're going to respond?
Yeah, I still think people are behind in their thinking. The world is at breakneck speed. So I'm going to answer your question kind of in a different way, William, when I come back. Because I think culture is intertwined in this, which is why
it is.
But the innovation that we're experiencing today that we think is innovation, or anyone thinks is innovation, is ancient history by tomorrow. So we did this study which played into this. A 5-year span in the 2000s, the speed of that change feels like 1 year now. And 16 years from now, the study says it'll feel like a month. So it's the time it took to change in 5 years, 16 years from now, it will take a month, right? So if you combine that with the half-life of hard skills, which is an all-time low, it's 2.5 years, which is only going to get shorter, all you're really going to be left with is some version of soft skills, which is incredibly more predictive of success on the job, and then some version of eligibility. If you think about a developer as an example, if you're hiring developers, up until recently, the languages they know from a development are really important. With ChatGPT, it's less important. It's going to be way less important. Communication, how you write a script into ChatGPT is going to be much more important than what development language that you know. So if people are falling behind that, then there's a problem. But you still have to have some version of eligibility, right? I don't want to hire a sales rep for enterprise who's never done sales. Like there's a level of eligibility you have to bring in. But more importantly, culture to me is the imperative. And with the speed of change that's happening that we just talked about, if your team's not all rowing together with the same culture, and it may not be the culture that the CEO wants it to be, right? The company may actually have its own culture and it may need to shift to a different culture. But if you start with culture and then lay out the skills, right? I don't think everyone's trying to solve, everyone wants to be a skills-based org, but they're solving it, in my opinion, in a very antiquated way. They're trying to determine what every pebble of sand on the beach is, versus that's not really what you need to know about somebody, right? If I'm going to hire a pediatric surgeon in Ohio, what do I need to know about that person outside of psychometric? Do you live in Ohio? Are you a pediatric surgeon? 2 things, right? Now, there may be a background check and all the other stuff I have to do, but as far as getting somebody to an interview, or if you look at it from succession planning, like if you're in marketing and you're a demand gen person, or you're in marketing and you're a brand person, like that may just need to be all I need to know about that particular person in order to screen them in or talk about them for internal.
So tell us a little bit about the responses you've gotten so far,
right?
From as this has come out. Right. This is a big reveal.
As somebody who runs go-to-market, right? Like the face I'll put on here is like, well, we always knew it would be amazing, but there's always a little bit of what is it going to be like when we roll it out. And we have for a little while, we've had some of our larger customers beta testing it, and those responses have been amazing. We rolled it out to our partners, and those responses have been amazing. And we had a big media day, a bunch of analysts, and those responses have been amazing. And then everything we've seen, again, we're 24 hours in, everything we've seen online has been really good. I feel like there may be some people out there who are very entrenched in the way they solved a particular thing, who may not love the way we solved it, but that's okay. Right. Or there may be some large enterprises out there that have invested so much time and resources into however they tried to solve it, even though they know it's not going to work, or they've realized it's not going to work, but they're going to put their arms around it and say, do it. But they'll be back.
Yeah. Will be, because Oracle, Workday, and SAP, or SuccessFactors, all have some take on skills.
Sure.
In general, they might, but they all have some type of approach because they saw the market going in this direction. They said they had to react to it. So again, it'll be interesting to see over the years how those big three, because that's what's Fortune 1000 uses one of those three.
Yeah, for sure.
So it'll be really interesting to kind of see how that plays out.
Yeah, what we wanted to do is what we've always done. We've taken something incredibly complicated and cumbersome, and from a science perspective, we want to make sure, hey, can we get the same outcomes that are predictive, that are ethical, that are humane, that work, and do it in a way that's way faster, better, and cheaper. So we did it with soft skills and scalable. We did it with culture, and we've done it with hard skills. And that's kind of the approach we've always wanted to have with things.
So what does the rest of the year look like for you? What do you, what's the push?
A lot of this, a lot of travel.
Going on the road show?
Going on the road show as always. We've had such a good couple of years that we've even changed kind of the mix of our CAB, of our customer advisory board, which has been really good. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the feedback for us has been there. So we're going to be spending more time with them. And then a lot of our time, which we will continue, is getting feedback from the market, because part of this is not necessarily a B2C play, because we're not charging on the Flourish side, but really making sure the humans are getting value in what we're going out and doing. And then aggregating all this data in a way that we can come back to the market and point to the success that we're driving with the level of lift being lower. And that's ultimately our goal, right? I think companies can become a skills-based organization in 90 days. Now, funny enough, we did a bunch of ads. That was one of the ads we put out a few months ago to test. And that was the lowest performing ad, because people went, that can't be true.
No way.
Right? Yet we've done this with enterprise companies again and again and again without hard skills. And now we're bringing the hard skills in, and it's really the same approach. So then overlay culture. I think we're in a really good spot. It's going to be a really busy 6 months from here on out. For sure.
What do you think the reason is companies don't believe they can become a skills-based organization in, you said 90 days?
Can I answer?
Sure.
Because they don't think they can do it. It's not so much that they fear the vendor and whether or not the technology can do it. It's that they can't move that fast. They know or at least the perception is that they have, is that their own organization can't move that fast. You might be able to. Yeah. We can't. Is that perception? Now, that's just me talking. I'm not the expert. Jason, what?
I completely agree. And what is I think there's a shift happening. A lot of the people we talk to run ops and not talent or TM now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So there's a big distinct shift here now that's happening. And historically, talent, whether you're TA or TM or whatever, has been a very administrative function historically.
Right.
So a hiring manager says, go find me this person who has this. They go find them 5 people. They say, no, not good enough. And they're beholden to whoever this person is. They've worked in the business, not on the business. Right. And I think there's been this shift, but there's still a fear of change, because they're not the persona to go kick the door down of a CFO. Like, I can tell you all the ROI we have for our clients, to where not only are they paying for Plum, they could go out and buy a huge HRIS from an ROI perspective. What we're seeing now is people are becoming a little more bold, because they're being asked to do so much and they don't have the ability to do it. So that's one reason. The other reason is they've been marketed to. Right? There's really big marketing budgets for products out there that say this is the way to do it. So you're convinced to do it. And then the third aspect is, if you've never seen a car, you just want a faster horse. Right? So we're coming in, and this is, what Ford had to deal with is, why would you build a car when, just give me 2 or 3 more horses? So we're taking this very different approach to things, and we have to understand the adoption curve. Like, early on adopters, when we speak to one, we will know in 5 minutes on that call if they're buying plumbing, within 5 minutes. Right. And we will know within 30 seconds if they're not.
What's the tell?
Right. And it's just not now. It's just not now. They're asking they ask a lot of the how, not the why.
Right.
So we were on a call the other day, and a woman on the call says, I've been tasked. So anytime somebody's been tasked, right, somebody gives them the plan.
It's not their initiative.
Right. And she goes, I was tasked to buy, she looked at Plum, she loves Plum. She says, I can't buy Plum because I was told to buy AI. Which, by the way, there's AI in Plum. But I'm like, go back to your boss and ask him or her, do they care about the what it is, or the how it works, or the why it is? Right? I don't care if it's AI if the outcomes are great. Did he or she just tell you to go buy AI and not care about the outcomes? But they're not asking the right question. So within 30 seconds, like you know that. versus we have a client who's going through a $2 billion talent transformation. Like that's a big investment, huge Fortune X company. Plum was the first thing they did to then use that data to feed everything else. What other tech stack are we going to do? Who in the company are early on adopters so we can start with them versus rubbing sandpaper across the whole organization of people who are fearful of change. So you just like, we all have a gut now that we just know immediately. And over time, it'll all get there. Those people will retire or somebody else will take their job or the C-level suite will figure out a different way to do it. But it's about the outcomes. It's not it. But we're also not spending $10 million a year on marketing like other companies are. Right? They're controlling the narrative of that.
Yeah, they're being beaten down with the how the technology works. So we use machine learning, we use AI, we use Gen AI, we use this. And again, to your point, who cares on a certain level, as long as it's not cold fusion.
Right.
Who cares about that? Which, let's making fun of it or not, I think sometimes that gets lost in the translation is they don't care so much about the AI. They want to just care that it's going to be around, that it will sustain the next 5-7 years of their life, that it won't be outdated. As soon as they buy it.
They also want to just be left alone, right? So they've been tasked to do this thing. They want to check the box. If you think you're going to move to a skills-based organization, you're going to be able to check that box with scraping and matching, you will never be done. You will never be able to check the box. Because skills get sunsetted every day, new skills, it'll never be done. And those same people don't ask questions about the things they use in their daily life, right? So I always use this joke that these people come home, they turn their thermostat to 70 degrees, right? They're not HVAC experts. Yeah. They don't need to know how it works.
No.
Doesn't matter if there's a dragon breathing fire in the basement. Just make my house 70 degrees, warm. Right?
Right.
But yet they think they need to understand how the technology works, and we're fine showing them, and everyone's fine showing them how the technology. But the buttons don't matter. It's the outcomes that they drive that matter.
Well, some folks, they do want to see it work because they've been burned before.
For sure.
By folks in our space that have sold, marketed, and sold a roadmap of products or a roadmap or a vision. It's something that I've talked about for years. Is like, look at live software. Just look at. I don't even care what's on the roadmap because I just assume the kitchen sink's on the roadmap. Show me what's live right now. Crack into a customer instance that you have permission to. Show me live software, not a demo environment, not PowerPoint, not anything else. Just show me live software, and I'll believe it's there if I can see that it's there.
It's one of the reasons I chose Plum when I came here. It's the best product I've ever had. But we had zero tech debt, right? So I'm a big fan of sell what's on the truck, right? Because you never know what's going to come tomorrow. Right. And we could have been selling this release months ago. Now we have some customers beta testing it, but we're not selling it. So that's different. We're not talking about it till it comes out. And I think I agree with you, William. I think that's incredibly important.
Jason, what are some of the questions? So we went through some of how you're able to pick out this is just not going to work out within a couple of seconds. What are the questions that you want potential customers to ask you as you're talking to them?
Yeah, I want them to think about their life from a multitude of lenses, because a lot of times by the third or fourth call, we're talking to a CHRO at a big company, right? Somebody tasks them and then we get there. Sometimes even the CEO of a large company. So put yourself in the position of first the human who's applying to your company and or who's an employee, right? What is their experience like today? Like, put the human first. Then put your functional hat on. In that functional hat is you need data on your people individually and in aggregate. So if you look at through those two lenses, but you're also a human in your role. Like, so if you're a hiring manager or recruiter, what would you want as a human? Like, every CEO should go apply for a job at their company, as an example. Every CEO should get into using these tools. What we hear a lot is there's a lot of talent intelligence tools that are built for the employers, because that's who pays the bill, and the human is secondary. We're opposite of that. And the reason we're opposite of that is the completion rate's through the roof. And if we roll it out to employees, it's almost 100% because we're giving them something in return. But then the employer gets all the data they need at 100% versus making this really sexy thing that has a 40% adoption and missing data on 60%. So I want them first to say, what's the experience for my people? And secondarily, how can I use this data to accomplish the goals that we're trying to accomplish? So what goals are they trying to accomplish? Well, where they are right now, they want to hire better. They want to have a better quality of hire. They want people to stay longer. They want people to be more productive. And if you match people to jobs where their innate skills are going to come through every day, this is not Plum data, this is market data. They're 322% more productive and they stay 3 years longer. So if you look at that as a human, you're like, oh my goodness, that person's happy, their boss is happy. If you look at it as a CEO or CFO, you're going to go, holy cow, company's going to make more money, we're going to be more productive, and everyone's going to be happy. So I don't want them to think about the buttons. Our buttons are great, our technology is awesome, our software is great. But like once you implement it, what is it going to do for the people? And is that actually what you want the outcomes to be?
So, two questions. How'd you come up with the names Flourish and Thrive? And then secondly, take us into culture gap.
Yeah, so we've had a logo for a while that when people flourish, business thrives, and I'll tie it into culture. Plums flourishes like a tree, and then all businesses want to thrive, as you can imagine. But culture's the first part of it. With this, so we're not using culture for selection. That's icky. That's not what we're doing because you don't want to do that.
Right.
So on the TM side, we're doing culture, and really what it is at the heart is the culture gap analysis.
Right.
So what that means is if we ask everyone in the company, and traditionally this would be cumbersome and people don't want to do it, we've gotten it down to where it's 7 minutes per person. So you ask everybody in the company, it's 7 minutes, and in return for your 7-minute investment, you get Plum Flourish, which is a complete career coaching guide. And within there, you can look at jobs within your company only. You can look at career pathing, a whole bunch of stuff that you want to do. So if you start with culture, you can then get in. If you think of the charter of a CEO, this is how I think of CEOs. They need to have a fiduciary responsibility to the business. They need to make sure their people are safe and growing. And they need to make sure culture's right. So if you get culture and your people are safe and growing, that's flourish. The business will thrive. That's the financial side. So we ask everyone in the company, 7-minute culture gap. You can do it once a year. You can do it however frequently you want. They get something in return, which checks the other box for the CEO. And then we're able to look at that data almost like a Venn diagram. So if we were to cohort that data, which we can cohort it any way you want. Do you want to look at it by location, by age, however you want to do it? You just did an acquisition, et cetera. So if we look at, as an example, the C-level, what does the C-level think the culture is? And what do they want it to be? Then we look at the data from the employees. What do the employees think the current culture is? And also, what do they want it to be? So Plum, because of who we are, and you mentioned Caitlin, and we're a great company culture. We're almost completely overlapped as circles. There's a couple little differences in there. And the differences are interesting where a lot of the legacy people who have been here, still our culture is we want inclusion and transparency, and we want to be a really good, loving culture. But if you look at the secondary one, depending on cohorts, what has moved is the people who have been here a long time. For the first 10 years, we were doing well, but we weren't up to the right. They've seen the up to the right. And now from a competitive perspective, they have all kind of said, hey, we want our culture to be slightly more competitive in one of outcomes. And that's been a change in them as we've gone. So now if I'm a CEO, I can look at my culture and say, again, it's based on this speed of change. What's best for the business? I thought our culture was this and I wanted it to be. All my people think it's this, and yet they all want it to be this way. And it's not a good versus evil thing, but perception's reality. If they think the culture is the same as what you want it to be, cool. But if everybody wants it to be a different culture, you're going to have a problem from a productivity perspective. If you're completely overlapped, hey, go show that to your investors and your board that you're doing a hell of a job with culture. It's almost like an insurance policy there. But then just try to figure out where the gaps are. Do men and women feel differently about your culture? Do ages feel differently about your culture? Do different regions feel different about your culture? Because without the data, you're blind. But to me, culture is the first and most critical part that you have to do.
Are you seeing a difference between different types of organizations, different industries, on how they reflect or how they take action on the data that you're providing?
If we look at it kind of historically from Plum, not just the recent stuff, the bigger the company, actually, the more they appreciate the data, funny enough. There's a lot of people in this space who sell to other tech companies. Well, other tech companies want a really good, shiny demo, even though there's nothing behind it. You were alluding to that, William, right? But if you go talk to a bank, they want to see a live instance of it. So a good friend of mine said, hey, I'm redoing high up in a bank. I'm redoing my tech stack. Will you come in and look at my tech stack? And we're getting demos from these different products. So we got 4 demos from 4 different whatever products. And he goes, I was like, cool, let's talk about these 2. He's like, this demo was awesome. Like people were engaged. It was awesome. He goes, this one was super boring because it was all sales engineers doing it. I'm like, that product doesn't work. And the one you hated is the best product. Right. So it's if you can do the combination of the 2, it's great. Right. Make people feel included and happy and see all that, but actually have a product that works. So I tend to see the larger the organization, we have plenty of midsize and small companies, but they've done so many things as a large corporation. There's a level of cynicism, but also a level of hope to where they know the right questions to ask. Whether it's procurement, legal, the key decision maker, they just know the right questions to ask. So it goes way faster. Our time to close on a large enterprise is actually many times shorter than a mid-sized company because they just know what to ask.
And they're willing to move faster if
they're
it's
willing
the
to move
right
fast
fit.
once they know. Yeah.
So you might hate software categories more than I do, which is saying something because I despise software categories. However, HR budgets, TA budgets are built in Excel.
Mm-hmm.
Plum is somewhere in some type of bucket of things. So what is that now with the additions that you've just recently made? What are you? What,
Yeah,
what would you say you do?
it's been
Jason?
an interesting 2 years with that question, William, and one we talk about a lot. So 2.5 years ago, we were an assessment, and we were the best assessment from a psychometric perspective in the market.
Right.
We won awards for it, and that is an aisle we wanted to stay in. Even though many of our clients thought of us as talent intelligence, and we won RFPs for talent intelligence over talent intelligence products. And then last year, we won talent intelligence product of the year. So we weren't ready necessarily to go to the next aisle, but people dragged us to that aisle. Customers dragged us to that aisle. Analysts dragged us to that aisle. So as we're looking at it today, I think we sit in this high-speed efficacy talent intelligence product, but really it's more this 360 view of your talent. Like, I don't think talent intelligence is well defined. I think of us as this total talent solution to look at all of your people. That may be talent intelligence, but most talent intelligence products infer data. They don't assess data, which puts us heavily in the assessment side, because if you infer things, it's not going to work. But if you assess things, you get it there. So today we see inbound from both people who are looking to replace assessments, and we see inbound for people who are looking for a talent intelligence solution. So it makes marketing fun, but also we have to make sure that we're not alienating people and not trying to be everything to everyone.
Right.
And that's a hard place to be. It's a hard place to be.
It's a very grateful place to be, but it's a hard place to be.
Yeah.
Work from a workflow perspective. What does this need to be connected to?
Depending on it technically doesn't have to be connected to anything. So we have clients who use it freestanding, not as an ATS. What they're using us for is kind of the front end provisioning side, as well as some TM stuff. They can pull in data into Plum on both the front end and the back end from a TM perspective. But most of our clients are going to integrate it to their ATS, and we can integrate to any ATS. So if you're using Workday and you see the Plum scores, both now hard and soft skills, you'll just see that in your candidate view. You can go back and forth. We've had people integrate it to a CRM because there's some functionality where if everyone, the way people typically use Plum is you apply for the job and you take Plum. It's top of the funnel, everyone, because the completion rate's so high and the experience rate's so high. It's so good. So then all those people get into either an ATS or a CRM. Within Plum, you're able to rediscover those people over time for other jobs they may be matched to. One of the reasons we did hard skills is, hey, that makes that matching way easier. But also being able to go back into your ATS or your CRM where you already spent money. How can you repurpose those people who have applied over years and then use the match scores that we have now to bring them in there? So those are the two main functions that we see within kind of the personal development side. So for me as a manager, I can look at the profile of people on my team, and I use it from a learning development, but also a management perspective. I can refer somebody on my team to go take some of the classes we've kind of curated in Plum to build coping mechanisms. But me as an individual, I can also take them, but then we can also use that. A lot of our clients use that as a GPS to their LMS, right? Being able to point them back where they need to go.
So let's talk about the demo for a moment. When you guys are talking to a prospect, where in the demo, when you get to this point in the demo, where is that point that okay, they've gotten this far, they're going to be a good client of ours?
Yeah, it's a fun question and one I appreciate. Um, so if you look back 2.5 years ago, if we had an hour with a customer, it was 55 minutes worth of demo and 5 minutes of questions. Where we are today, it's about 35 to 40 minutes worth of a deck and about a 15-minute demo, right?
Right.
Um, which is the right cadence, right? Nobody's going to see every button. Now, that's not the last demo we do. They're going to be people. We're going to do a much deeper dive after that. But nobody ever looked at a demo and go, oh my God, I want your product, right? It's what problems are you solving? So we will know by slide 7, 8, or 9 if it's clicked, right? And what ends up happening is it becomes their idea to bring Plum in, because it's not just about solving the problem they've been tasked with.
Mm-hmm.
It's about solving the problem at the human level that they're seeing, either for themselves or candidates or employees, but also it solves a personal problem for them. And that's what most people kind of leave out in this, right? If you look at, let's just say it's a recruiter, which is rarely who it is, but that recruiter is now being asked to do more with less, and they have all these things. And, they're missing meals with their family because they're being worked to the bone. If they have Plum on the front end, it almost becomes this recruiter co-pilot that makes their job significantly easier. Not that they're going to win a trophy, but I can have dinner with my kids tonight, right? And as you get higher and higher in the organization, if you get to, let's say, a VP of talent or a CHRO or somebody higher, the boulder they have is bigger because they're trying to solve bigger problems. So if you look at it from a CHRO perspective, they may have been trying to solve culture forever. And it's just, it changed, as William said, change is hard. Mm-hmm. It's 7 minutes, roll it out, let's go, right? So it's the personal aspect of it a lot, because a lot of people want to be heroes in that journey. They just don't know how, especially these people, right? So if you look at some of our clients, some of them have won Practitioner of the Year awards because of Plum. And I'm not patting ourselves on the back, but they took the risk because they were early on adopters to just hear the first conversation. They then went and kicked all the doors down, made huge changes in their organization. That's where that personal benefit comes from them. And 5 to 10 minutes into a conversation, long before we get to the demo, we'll know it. If we're framing the problem and talking to questions, and somebody says, "Can you get to the demo?" We're done.
You've got them at that point.
Yeah.
Got it.
So, favorite kind of or most recent customer success story, without brand names or any of that type of stuff, but like a story you like telling people where maybe they were a cynic, or maybe they didn't believe, or whatever. Maybe they just bought it just because they were forced to. but a story that you can tell somebody and go, hey, this is a journey that someone took, and this was their outcome. Might not be your outcome, but this was their outcome.
Yeah, I'll give a story without naming names, but
Yep.
Imagine a very, very large consulting company that everybody knows. So they are a partner of ours, but also said, hey, we're thinking about a solution like Plum. Let's bring it in. And because they're global, you're not going to go sell a $5 million deal to do it globally. So we did a proof of concept, not a pilot, multi-year, with a cohort of people. We had them out the door and completely up and running as a skills-based org in 90 days. The CEO of this large consulting company spoke about Plum in their all-hands meeting a couple weeks ago, right? So this is a very large company. So to me, like, that's a testament. But there's other ones, and just interesting ways how people can use the data. We have a client that has 176,000 employees, all who have access to Plum. Their struggle is they're in 26 different countries and 20 different languages. Mm. So now they can use Plum and the data as the single source of truth. It's not the only data they need, but it's the starting point. So they're not muddying it with all this other data that doesn't work. We have a really interesting one that's about to happen. Again, I won't say the names, but they hire 5,000 to 7,000 people every year to test things. I won't tell you what they're testing, but it involves controllers. And it's like, we don't care about their hard skills. Like they literally interview all 5,000 people, and they're like, hey, with Plum, especially with culture and everything else, we will just hire people from that data. Like, we'll bypass the phone screen, right? And if they're this level or higher for this particular job, we'll bring them in for a face-to-face and we'll just hire them. So it's like, how much time, money, and effort. We did the ROI calculator for that. And the savings they were going to get per year was somewhere like $1.5 million just for that cohort of people. That's only like 10% of their whole company.
Wow. That's an interesting
but it was a visionary. It was a visionary. He went and said, hey, I've got our CHRO or our chief people officer. Let me go bring that person in. And I want to make sure he's on board on the front end. And if he's not, I'm never going to get it done. Everyone tell you, oh, I can get it done because I have budget. No, you're not. So they went and got this. They went and got the person involved. He's like, I love it too. So now our contact has permission. He's like, let me know when it's done and we'll implement it. And that deal will close super fast. And it's large enterprise customer.
Oh, good. So, all right, final question from me. Where do you see companies getting it wrong? Maybe specifically on the culture side, as they're trying to run solutions like this through their organization.
Yeah, it's a great question. I want to be careful because we've had people ask us, like, what's a good culture? What's a bad culture? It's in the eye of the beholder.
I don't think there is a bad
There's no such thing, right? If you're the CEO of a large collection company, like, you have to have a different culture, right? If you're running a Wall Street firm, you have to have a different culture. Like, it's just the way it is, right? And let's use Elon Musk, right? He gets a lot of crap for the culture that he has.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the three of us would love working for Elon Musk. Maybe we would. But that's not who's working there. Right. So it's like, that's his culture works great for him and them. So where I think it goes wrong is there's too many assumptions without data, right? So you have the CEO sit in a room going, our culture is innovation. Yet we can measure innovation and tell you exactly how many people in your company are innovative, right? We can also ask the entire company, do you think it's an innovative culture? Yes or no? Do you want it to be an innovative culture? So if 100% of the company says, I don't want an innovative company, and yet the CEO wants an innovative company, there's a big problem. So the problem now is twofold. They're not engaging the human on the front end as to why they're asking cultural questions. Do it because I told you to do it, and they're getting nothing in return. And then number two, it's diagnostic without prescription, right? You can assess and get the data, but if you're not telling people what to do with the data, that's the problem. Right? It's like going to the doctor and they say you have a cold. Okay, well, what do I do about it? We go home, get rest, drink some oranges. Right? I have cancer. Very different set of prescriptions and what you need to do with that scenario. So most people are just collecting the data and not actioning on it because they don't know what to do.
So I'll give you the choice. This will be my last question, but I'll give you two questions. You can pick one. Success for Plum in the next year is ... or Plum is a bullet train. What derails it? Only pick one.
Yeah, I'll pick the first one.
I know how you are.
I was going to try to give you answer both in one.
I know. I knew you were.
Yeah,
I knew you were.
Well done. Because we're putting the human first, that's the first layer of things that we're going to be measuring. So we have 50,000 people a month. I want to make sure, and I believe 100% this will be true, that number is going to go up exponentially month over month. And I want people coming in as frequently as they feel they need to get value in their career. So I want it to be sticky for them as well. And if there's this, which there already is, but if there's this cult following for Plum at a much higher rate, more than 50,000, everything else will take care of itself.
Drops mic, walks off stage. Jason, thank you so much for your time. We know how crazy busy you are, and congratulations on this massive release.
Thank you.
2 years in the making. Love Plum, love you, and just thanks for being here.